Hello and welcome to today's reflection. I'm Julie Butcher, curate at Holy Trinity and St Michael and All Angels. Today's reading is from the Gospel according to Matthew, chapter 24, verses 15 to 28. So when you see standing in the holy place the abomination that causes desolation, spoken of through the prophet Daniel, let the reader understand. Then let those who are in Judea flee to the mountains. Let no one on the housetop go down to take anything out of the house. Let no one in the field go back to get their cloak. How dreadful it will be in those days for pregnant women and nursing mothers. Pray that your flight will not take place in the winter or on the Sabbath, for then there will be great distress, unequaled from the beginning of the world until now, and never to be equaled again. If those days had not been cut short, no one would survive, but for the sake of the elect, those days will be shortened. At that time, if anyone says to you, "Look, here is the Messiah," or "There he is," do not believe it. For false messiahs and false prophets will appear and perform great signs and wonders to deceive, if possible, even the elect. See, I've told you ahead of time. So if anyone tells you, "There he is, out in the wilderness," do not go out. Or, "Here he is in the inner room," do not believe it. For as lightning that comes from the east is visible even from the west, so will be the coming of the Son of Man. Wherever there is a carcass, there the vultures will gather. Well, a bit of a tough reading today. My heart sank when I read it. But the book of Daniel seems to hold the key to the first part. It was a very popular book at the time of Jesus, written in the style of the day with lots of strange imagery. But the common theme to the story it contains seems to be that despite all the terrible events of the time, God will redeem his people and send the Messiah. It's essentially a book to bring hope amidst struggle and suffering. Of course, the temple in Jerusalem had been desecrated by the Syrian king Antiochus Epiphanes 200 years or so before Christ was born. And again in AD 70, the Romans marched on it and placed their standards in it, and the temple, of course, eventually fell. But Jesus warns his followers not to stay and fight, but to leave urgently. The instructions rather remind me of the fire drills we used to have at school. Don't go back for anything. Remember, leave your lunchbox in your coat. You've got to get out. The message, of course, is flee for your life. Historians tell us that many Jerusalem Christians actually did leave the city around this time when the temple fell and went to Pella. It's maybe a good thing for us that they did, and that the good news survived and spread to us to hear it today. Of course, terrible times continue across the world today, and we witness them on our television sets every evening, don't we? We see people fleeing war in their homeland, see the Ukrainian people, the Syrians, recently the people of Gaza moving from place to place to avoid bombs and their destruction. It goes on. People are persecuted for their faith. Homes and livelihoods are destroyed by climate change, poverty and endless suffering. It's easy as we hear of all these devastating things going on to do one of two things, I believe. First, we can get very busy and distract ourselves, try and blot it out from our minds. We won't act on it. We don't reflect on it or pray about it. We just do more activity. Or the other extreme, we can pretend that it isn't happening, disengage from the world. I know many people who say to me, "I don't listen to the news anymore because it's just so awful." So what do I think we should do? What does Jesus tell the disciples to do in the rest of the gospel? Well, we all need to trust God and all that he promises us, to continue to follow Jesus and to do the best to imitate him in our lives. We need to love each other, caring for those in difficult situations, doing what we can to help, trying to shine something of Jesus's light in the dark places that we find. and to offer his hope. We need to remain steadfast, not allow ourselves to be tempted to fall into the selfish ways we can see in the world around us, which says make sure you look after number one. We need to continue to forgive each other, be people of peace, and allow ourselves to be drawn closer to Jesus all the time. So not easy, but I pray that over the coming days, we'll know God with us, whatever the news brings. Amen.